All right, here is a view of the eye. Looking pretty interesting. So notice the rectus muscles here, rectus muscles throughout. You got the lateral, the medial, superior, inferior. Notice the other regions of the eye. We can maybe take a look here. So there's the iris. So this is obviously going to change. It's going to be able to change the shape here of the pupil. So notice we tried to look before social distancing. One class gazed into the eyes of their friend. That was when was it? I forget. One of the classes gazed into the eyes of their friends, and I turned the lights on and off, and you could see that pupillary reflex. So that's a central nervous system response. That is one of many reflexes that's involved in the central nervous system. Of course, the famous reflex that most people get checked quite often is the knee-jerk reflex. We'll talk reflexes in a few days because that's an important mechanism for homeostasis. You cannot have too much bright light entering the eye because the retina can't tolerate that bright light. So the reflexive response is going to be a pupillary reflex, and that pupillary reflex is going to reduce the size of the pupil, and obviously that's going to reduce the amount of light entering the eye, and that has a protective sort of function to it. Anyway, let's do a little dissection here. And notice the different regions. What is this region here? This is the posterior chamber, and it's filled with the fluid. What is that fluid? I need you participating. Are you participating out there? Emma, you participating? Leah? Bueller? Anyway, here is the larger posterior chamber. It's going to have the thick, and you'll see the thickness of this. First period class, we'll see the thickness of that fluid, that transparent gel-like fluid. So that's the posterior cavity, but that gel-like fluid is the vitreous humor. What is this structure here? That's an obvious one. So we'll give that away. There's the lens. What holds the lens in place? What is this structure above the cursor arrow going to be? Let's take a look. Holds or suspends. So there we go. Notice this structure, ciliary body. Now in the front part of the eye, there's another chamber. So this is the posterior. Remember, here's front. Front is anterior. This optic nerve is posterior here. So anatomical terminology. So notice this anterior chamber. They're calling it the anterior cavity. And that's going to be filled with a watery material, which nourishes the tissues, has amino acids, other nutrients. And anterior chamber, anterior cavity. Well, what do you know? I was hoping they'd go for aqueous humor filling that. What is this structure here? Everybody? At once. Cornea! All right. What about the layers of tissue on the back part of the eye? Delicate layer, thin, delicate, reddish pink in its appearance. Why reddish pink? Because of the numerous amounts of blood vessels. Now, a trained ophthalmologist could analyze, so there's an eye doctor there, or an optometrist as well as an ophthalmologist. An ophthalmologist has an MD degree. Or actually, I think maybe an optometrist, they consider themselves, they might consider themselves MDs, but I don't know. Anyway, I think technically they would be called doctor, but there's a big difference in the level of schooling between an ophthalmologist. They're both highly educated. Just kidding out there, Justin Scheider, because he's an optometrist. So an ophthalmologist and an optometrist are both highly educated. Either one of those professions could analyze the retinal appearance and diagnose various diseases. For example, diabetes can be diagnosed by analyzing with an ophthalmoscope. So we're going to look through the pupil, basically a handheld magnifying glass with a little light on it, and we're going to examine the surface of the retina and deduce any sort of disease due to any sort of abnormal appearance. Well, anyway, let's see. So we have the retina. We have another layer just beneath the retina, and then a third layer towards the outside. What are those? So we have retina. There it is. Retina. Then the next layer is the choroid. And then the next layer is the sclera. So commit these to memory, inside to out. Rick can see. Any silly little ways to help memorize things in human anatomy and physiology, maybe other classes as well. If it works, do it. What are these two structures here? Let's see. There's the optic disc. So that's the blind spot. And of course, that's the optic nerve. And there we have it.